Gachechiladze is undoubtedly an accomplished sculptor. It is worth noting that people often find it difficult to recognize a living talent. Today, the National Gallery is for the first time hosting Rusudan Gachechiladze's retrospective exhibition. Even during the Soviet era, Rusudan Gachechiladze was regarded as a reformer of Georgian portrait sculpture. She introduced many novelties, psychologism, and a different use of color. Not many people master such coloring techniques. She created sculpture that was innovative, independent, and in touch with civilizations, ancient civilization and Western European culture. The vitality and magic that are characteristic of sculpture in general are introduced into her works. She returned to portrait sculpture and primary function of the statue, its function as a magical object, which was also the primary purpose of sculpture from ritual standpoint. If we reflect on Rusudan Gachechiladze's creative work, we cannot discern anything that was significant in the biography of the Soviet artist. This is why she never received a state commission. Her monumental shapes were not erected in public spaces. She never had a personal exhibition or residences, such creative missions, let's say. Rusudan Gachechiladze is a sculptor who liberated Georgian sculpture from its ideological bounds and transformed it into magical and vital works. This is crucial, since Rusudan Gachechiladze is the only sculptor in Georgia who had developed this direction since that time. It does not concern artists of the newer generations. We conditionally call Rusudan's artworks graphics because they are principally sculpture projects. A lot of themes can be seen in these graphic works and form an integral part of her sculptures. As far as we know, Rusudan no longer works, but continues to live quietly in her studio, in a self-immersed way, just as she did in the past.
Rusuko is such a direct and straightforward person. She is brimful of humanity. She is like a bunch of grapes. At work, she was like a wolf, always present and performing duties. For Rusuko, a task was never completed. None of my portraits were finished for her. It happens in all cultures that someone becomes unexpectedly hidden, covered. Because at all times, there is a cover to put over someone who is a true artist. And Rusuko is like that. She produced 3 or 4 portraits of me. Rusuko helped me to comprehend several concepts. Do I have such a head, Rusuko? You have a good head, she used to tell me. Rusuko had to be discovered. She wouldn't have appeared on her own.
I was born in this yard, where you are now. My family was very interesting, very lively. They were interested in many things. My grandmother took me to the opera once. She liked going to different places. We also visited the theater. I was standing there, and whose head it was, I don't know. Maybe it was Augustus or whoever. I can't remember now. And at that moment, I decided to become a sculptor. What? Oh, sculptor! You're a woman, were the reactions I got. In Korea, the earth was red, Eli's clay, red and sticky, you know. Well, I accidentally touched it with my hand and felt that it was like plasticine. I don't know what happened in Khidistavi, but I realized that my hand had touched it. I suddenly turned and looked at the person for 2 minutes, but I will have that impression for the rest of my life. Painting is actually a semi-psychological process, isn't it? Everyone has their own approach, and there aren't just one or two ways, there are a million ways, and each way has its audience. I thought I knew I was starting, but then I asked Niko Nijaradze to tell Gachechiladze to visit. I didn't know Gachechiladze. When he told me he would come, that's when I started. I saw several European Thai poets in some magazines. I didn't even recognize their faces. I read it somewhere later. They stayed inside me. And then I recalled them later. Something very big often comes from nothing. It comes and goes in silence. I, for example, love silence very much. You really want to feel something, that you are part of something moving. You are a part of this world. There's so much going on in silence. It can drive you crazy. You specify a lot of things in silence. You've been there many times. And you shouldn't be afraid. It's like a narrow bridge, isn't it? Sometimes you feel like everything is falling apart. The next day is the morning, like nothing you've ever seen before. You rise with the sun because you see it. I noticed so many things there. Even weakness. Can you imagine? Nature has taken care of so much, and you want to imitate that. You realize that something huge is involved and that you are a part of it. Don't forget. And suddenly you start all over again. You're just looking for a way to feel close to nature. And that's why you're looking. That's why you jump inside it. And that's why you cut. Because you don't have such spontaneity. And then you're already resting. Composition is a long way. You start something, then sometimes nothing remains of that something. Sometimes comes up while you're working, then you don't like it, and you do the same thing the next time, and there you catch the story you want. If I can't feel the time, therefore I'm working, there's something so good about it, how it pulls you in, doesn't it? I often have this happiness. I used to have it. I don't have it anymore. The process is the best part. It's already a fact that you have nothing to do with it. You fought, didn't you? Wrestled with something. Then you're already looking at it, and you're really glad that you did. Sometimes the color can be such that neither bronze nor anything else would do. It's true that its metal was peeling, but I used it for Dato Mukhadze's sculpture. It's a bit common, but I used to place newspaper like this, apply it to the newly molded statue, and you know, when you take it out of the mold, it's greased, and it stays on it when you take it off, you understand? Suddenly, I got color like that, and it was very interesting. It was a surprise to me. They told me to collect small pieces of paper and other things at home, and I made sketches for 2 years. Even that helped me, and you can imagine that they sent me home, and sometimes students came to me. But I had time. Before, I had never had time for my family. My mother was a 36-year-old woman who needed care. From birth, God gives you something, and then it's up to you how you use it. Themes of angels. My nephew asked me to do that, almost begged. And I told him that I didn't know how to do it. I drew it first, I didn't tell him. I made that outline, and then I made a larger one. The latter gave me the opportunity to produce a lot of things like that in different colors. And then it was followed by the secret part. For some reason, I had a desire not only to draw humans, but something more accessible, something transitional between us and something else. Isn't it mysterious? And what was it? A man does not know what he wants and when, why something explodes inside him, and if it is as small as a sea or something, it explodes inside you, right? Astronomy is really amazing. I was totally fascinated. The sky is so full of things, lines and those tails. How can this not be a source of surprise? God's presence comforts us a lot. We know how the world originated, one way or another. But there are too many opinions, aren't there? The recognition that God created something else, another culture again among humans. What He asks of you, don't steal, don't misbehave, try not to do bad things. 10 commandments. They are not hard to follow, but sometimes we fail to keep even one of them. I have the feeling that if I ask for something, it will be fulfilled. Once I called Maiko and told her the weather was bad. And then I asked God, I'm begging you, show me the sun. And the sun really came out. I know this doesn't mean that if I ask and it's always fulfilled, but I believed it, didn't I? It was too wondrous to believe. Perhaps the most important thing is to live in such a way that you see many smiles, have many pleasures. A person does not need too much pleasure to feel happy. Often a little joy is enough to be in a very good mood. Generally, women can't obtain what they deserve. For some reason, our society hasn't yet reached that level. Firstly, society should believe that same things are made by women. About my own work, a man once asked, did she do that? Did she really do it? We don't believe it, that's it. You have to resist if there are no questions. That's to say, you must be very self-confident. I think that Rusudan has a tough character. In fact, I'm an ordinary person. I really don't lack goodness. You have a feeling of regret when something is over for you personally. The regret that you didn't make it. The regret that you didn't treat someone the way you wanted. And it all adds up, and you end up feeling sad. Grace is the most wonderful thing. I'm satisfied and grateful for something that has suddenly been granted to me. I'm very thankful to God that I'm speaking to you now, even though I hadn't even hoped for it.